request either yesterday or it might have been the day before from the hockey community. I think feeling perhaps a little left out. Wouldn't it be great to have some, even if it's, like reckless, wild speculation on hockey? Let's go ahead and do it. So let's try to satisfy those individuals in a very specific way, even though we don't really have any new information. We know allegedly who the Wild continue to covet. We know who they continue to want to extend, and from a contract standpoint. But we really don't think we have much else going on right now, which doesn't mean other stuff isn't going on. It just means we might not know about it, correct? By the way, did I see a tweet from you that you'd already booked our first State Fair guest?
I have booked our first and our second.
Really?
Yes.
Are they unusual ones? Or are they
No, they're standard.
Standards, okay.
They're usually the first two.
Oh, okay.
I can tell you if you'd
go
like.
ahead.
I don't have remember the dates off the top of my head, but Andrew Zimmern is booked.
Okay.
And then the other one that's always booked very early is whoever's coaching Gopher men's basketball.
Yes, because their day out there is early. Is that the reason?
No, because their SID, Michelle, Train Traversy, is a
professional.
A bleeping pro.
Professional.
And gets it done. And I actually texted her after the Andrew Zimmern thing. She takes pride in being the first. Okay. And she knows that we get busy, so she wants to get Gopher Hoops on the board. So Nico's coming out. That's already booked. And Andrew Zimmern is booked as well.
Are you familiar with Wes Walls?
Love Wes Walls.
Not the governor. Wes Walls.
I love Wes Walls.
Former member of the Minnesota Wild.
Yes, I love him.
Also now part of the Wild broadcast team moving forward, too, right, with their big announcement.
Yes.
Remind me to get to some other Wolves broadcast stuff to follow up on our discussion yesterday. Well, Walsey sat down with your guy, Randball, and I thought it was a very good interview, and it covered an area that we've all kind of covered, but I thought it crystallized it in a really effective way, worthy of giving it a little more attention. You can read the piece. It's, obviously via StarTribune.com. But Randball basically asks Walsey to define a number one center, right, in the NHL. We talk about this all the time. We got to get a number one center.
Yeah,
right?
What does that mean?
What the hell does it mean? Because it can mean different things to different people. And Wes Walls is not the last word on this. By the way, did Governor Walls ever coach hockey? We know he coached football. Did he ever coach hockey, to our knowledge?
I'm pretty sure he said he did, but then they went back and looked, and they couldn't find it.
Not necessarily so? Okay. So here's Walls' answer, not the governor, Wes Walls' answer to how does he define what a number one center is and does. Listen to this. I would personally define it as a guy that plays the power play, can run the power play, doesn't necessarily have to be a penalty killer, but probably should be a penalty killer because he needs to play 22 or 23 minutes a game. And for me, a number one center has to be able to be great both ways. As good defensively as he is on offense. Those players are hard to find. There's probably only 10 of them in the league. I thought that was pretty complete. Beyond just the cliche, we need a number one center. He's laying it out. Now, he does believe, according to this piece, that Dylan Larkin is in that number one center category, saying he's very good defensively. Obviously, we know what kind of numbers he puts up offensively. What I see in a true number one is a guy that can score at one end and actually defend against the best players in the world. So then the follow-up question from Randball was, is Eriksson Ek a number one center? Some theorize that he's a little bit undervalued, then he might well be a number one center. But the Walls response, again, very honest. He made a distinction between Eriksson Ek and someone like Larkin, adding that he would consider Eriksson Ek a low-end number one or a high-end number two center. His goals tend to be gritty instead of pretty, while his puck distribution is not elite, which separates him from others a notch above. Quote, if you got another guy just like Ek, that would be enough to get you over the hump to where you need to be. But he added that he isn't sure that player is on the current roster or in the prospect pool. Looking at the bigger picture, we do need to add one more higher-end centerman. So I think he's saying if you get a second guy who he ranks about as high as Eriksson Ek, that might provide enough depth, even if you don't, in either one of them has what he classifies as a high-end true number one center. But I like the specificity.
It's great.
With which Walls answered the question. So I thought it was well done.
Because now, whoever they sign, if it's not Dylan Larkin, now we can go back to that and we can try to see if that's who they got.
That's correct.
He's helping out, even though you're the hockey ambassador and I'm a hockey dad.
Correct.
Both trademarked. He's helping us out, the casuals, a little bit to figure out if they actually accomplished the goal that they wanted to accomplish.
And I think the X factor on Larkin is obviously the general manager change, even though I think he's still the guy technically right now until they hire somebody else. Mm-hmm. And everybody has wondered, though, whether Yzerman was a roadblock and that if he's on the way to being removed, might that improve the chances the Wild have to get him, to pry him away? Might it have no impact? We just don't know. There's 100 ways to look at it. We're just not sure, but it probably means we're going to have to put this off, and it might well extend into the season. It's just like with the Wolves, I think there's a possibility that something might open up or shake loose at power forward once you get into the season, perhaps before a trade deadline, right? That's the other issue. And we like this to be clean, right? In a perfect world, you get all this stuff done before the season starts in either case. But as I think the Minnesota move last year indicated, things sometimes do happen later, happen in the season, and it can still be effective. So I don't think we can necessarily assume anything that if we don't get a center before the season starts, that means there's no chance of getting one.
No,
correct?
I think Billy's phone's always on, and yes. I think Tim Conley's is as well.
Correct. We've
seen him make in-season trades too. And so if you want to make it to the Wolves, and Faunos will be bitter because we were talking Wild, I kind of feel like we'll see what this Kuminga smoke is all about, because I just don't see it happening financially.
No.
But once the season starts, I do think that's when the Wolves stuff is going to heat up. When we see how all these other teams are playing, other guys might become available. There's always buyout guys. There's deadline deals you can make. I don't know who those names would be right at the moment, but that's when I think I kind of think the Wolves their team is on the floor right now before the season starts. I don't see a bunch changing between now and then. But I remember being in Ypsilanti, Michigan, the night that Cat got traded, and it was like October 10th. So stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened.
Clayton wants to know how much flopping Gaardsy has seen with the state fair invitations, crippling dentist appointments that could last for days, tires that have been leaking air that shouldn't be driven on, too many good food options to choose from. The flop list probably goes on and on. Good luck, Gaardsy.
For our guests?
Yeah.
No, the nice thing is we kind of know who's already on the PUP list and not going to be physically unable to perform.
That would be starting with Kevin Seifert.
And Gleeman.
Oh, that's right.
Neither really like going to the fair.
How about the breaking Chris Hine news?
I know.
How about that? Congratulations to Heinze.
I'm glad you got to it. I was going to get to it in top 5.
He has just announced that he's moving to the Philadelphia Inquirer to cover LeBron James and the Philadelphia 76ers. Are you kidding me?
How about that?
Now, he's from the East Coast. So I think in a couple of his tweets he sent out, he's basically said, I want to get closer to family.
He's 2 hours from home.
What a nice opportunity. I mean, your timing, if LeBron spends 2 years there, are you kidding me? You're the center of one of the centers of the basketball universe. You've walked into that. It sounds like they got 2 people covering the beat. He will be one of them.
I think you need it with LeBron.
And it sounds like a hell of an opportunity for Heinze after covering the Wolves about last 8 years,
He said 8 years, yeah. It was funny. I was sitting in the score over there, and he texted me and said, how about one more time on the air for old time's sake before we leave?
Oh, we'll do it.
And I said, we'll do it. So we'll probably hook up with him next week.
There's no question.
Such a good dude. Yeah. Such a good guy. One of those guys you like seeing at the ballpark, Always very friendly, always very cool. Wrote a great book about Anthony Edwards. I mean, the whole deal.
Yeah, the whole deal. So, congrats. Because I think just broke earlier today, did it, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, he tweeted about it this afternoon.
Yeah.
That was it.
How about some bonus bucks?
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks with our national cash contest. Green is the keyword. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword green.
Is Pitchfork Nation changing a bit? Dare I say moderating a bit? Or is that too much to ask? We'll explain next.
You're listening to Barrero.
most controversial player in the WNBA is headed for Minnesota on Sunday, and one of her teammates, Caitlin Clark, is coming as well. Sophie Cunningham has suddenly become, in an odd way, a more polarizing figure. Certainly, from a controversy standpoint, hotter, despite the almost endless number of Caitlin Clark-related controversies. So here's the question for you. This is a theory that is being advanced by a couple different writers who I quote from time to time. She has made a point via, I don't know if it was first, was it radio show or was it podcast? Where did she first stake her claim regarding her belief that she's trying to protect the rights of women players to play just against quote-unquote women? I don't remember where it began, but she has staked out that claim.
Yeah. It was amplified in the ESPN story.
And then she doubled down on it in the ESPN story, remember? Or was that the original?
I think that might have been the original, and then doubled down on it. Then there was a double down on it.
And then the other day they're playing out west, and a couple of fans agreeing with her come armed with some signs. That results in co-owner ripping into those individuals, as apparently did some other fans. And then said co-owner ends up being punished by the league, will be banned from her home arena for, I think it was the next 5 games, and fined as well. Sophie, continues, I think. I don't think there's any sign of she's going to come to the microphone and say, I've been insensitive. I've rethought my position. I'm not here to hurt anybody, and I feel like I might have harmed. We've had none of that from her thus far, right? So here's the question based on the theory. The theory is that 5 years ago, I don't know what the right number of years would be, but several years ago, in the heart of Pitchfork Nation perhaps being at its most forceful and its most cancellation happy, that she would have been quote-unquote canceled back then for what she is now saying out loud today. And I think it's an interesting question that has some legs to it because, again, she's a player. I don't think, would she have been sanctioned back then? Or would she have felt less free to say out loud what she apparently believed? Because we have seen, it's undeniable that we have seen movement on this debate, I guess you could say, right? We still have people who are out of their minds, I think, on the edges of either basically saying you're either with us or you're against us. And if you're not with us, you don't deserve to live, basically. But we have had enough voices and even, I think, enough quote-unquote left-of-center outlets, media outlets, who have raised questions and saying that this question is worthy of discussion, that you shouldn't be hollered down, hooted down, and sort of you shouldn't have to live under the threat of cancellation if you say that more than anything else you are trying to protect girls and or women. I don't know the answer, but I do think the more quote-unquote mainstream voices who've raised questions on this issue, and that includes, who can we name among, would that be, Martina would be among those?
Yeah.
There have been others.
The Washington Post did that op-ed.
Washington Post, that's true. We've quoted that heavily. There have been a number of other pieces on the issue. Now, this is a separate issue from the question of gender-affirming care for minors, but in a sense, it's all connected, one could say. I think there's some truth to it. I think by now, several years ago, she'd have been underwater. Now, that doesn't mean Sophie might not have said, I'm sticking with it, but I think she'd have been underwater. There would be, and by the way, it could be coming. It could be the cabal is trying to figure out its strategy about how to knock her down, to get her to back off. I don't know. But there's no question, I think, whatever we have going on now, there is more of a willingness to have this conversation or not automatically lose your mind if somebody raises it. And I don't know. I mean, one of the pieces I read laid out some truth that there are especially left of center people who, if they're honest with themselves, have felt afraid to discuss this issue.
For sure.
Then that's the only reason they haven't discussed it. Not that they don't have questions, not that they don't think there are legitimate questions about it, but it's not worth it to me. I don't want to face the onslaught. I don't want to get kicked out of the lodge. So I'm not going to necessarily endorse it, but I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to necessarily say, no, wait a minute, what about this? So I don't know what to make of that, but I do think there's less likelihood of cancellation than there once might have been for a mainstream player, right, in the WNBA.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, she's not like a superstar player by any means.
No, but she's one of the most popular.
Exactly.
In terms of the most eyeballs on her.
Exactly right.
Watching her play. And obviously being on the Fever definitely helps that because the Fever are the most popular team in the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark. So everything she does.
That's true, too.
Gets magnified. I do think there is a little bit of a softening where there's not the immediate cancellation, especially on that particular issue.
Yes.
The women in sports and protecting women's sports and the trans in sports. Because, as you know, 5-6 years ago, I mean, even go back to the Tokyo Olympics. I mean, it's like immediate. You can't even like furrow an eyebrow to go, wait, are we sure this is right? Are we sure? And now, so I think there has been a little bit more.
And then it was
exploration.
You're endangering lives. And there's still people, by the way, who will go down that road and say exactly that. You are endangering lives by bringing up these issues. Part of what has changed also is, I mean, we have seen a defining of positions as it pertains to even like the official Olympic position on this. Has gotten, I don't know if tougher is the right word, but less apologetic for sticking with distinctions that basically are not all that much in disagreement with what Sophie Cunningham's position is as policy. Now, we can argue again about whether that's fair to all involved and whether it's a little trickier than you think. But it's a significant change. Now, I still think there's a possibility it can go pear-shaped for her, that there's going to end up being a place where there's a demonstration that gets out of hand, or how does a given arena handle it? Like, let's just say here, even on Sunday. And apparently, like I said, I think there were girls, not women, who had the signs, according to some reporting that's been done there. Was it Seattle, did we say?
Yes.
That they were under siege, not by any, not just the owner, but by fans. Basically, get the trash out of here. That can happen again. And then I worry that then it spins a little bit out of control. And then guess whose responsibility it's going to be to step up to keep the peace? Sophie Cunningham's. Mm-hmm. It's like with Caitlin. It'll be like, it's your responsibility here to rise above this and to make sure that people who think they're doing this on your behalf, that then you are somehow responsible if they carry it too far, or if they go out of line, or if it ends up becoming a confrontation of sorts. So it's a fascinating example, I think, of a little bit of a shift that's going on. How long it's going to last, I don't know. I mean, I just saw this again a couple of days ago. There's still individuals. Are you still on Bluesky at all?
Never been.
There's individuals on Bluesky who still consider the New York Times as being dangerous to the whole transgender movement. The New York bleeping Times. And I guess you could say what's changed a little bit is that mentality was more pervasive. Even though it still exists, I think it was more pervasive then, and that's why there were probably fewer people willing to go down the road that Sophie Cunningham is going in this particular case. And you just sort of shake your head there and say, man, I don't know what to tell you. What you hope is that's still a relatively, small minority of fringe people, but that's part of life on Blueski is very litmus testy oriented. And, I guess it all depends on which echo chamber you want to be in. Let's make this the bottom of the hour pause. We'll come back with, usually it's Ben Gessling at 4:30, but we've got him at 5:30 as he continues to cover Vikings practice. And Lavelle will move from his usual 5:30 spot. You have questions for him on more Twins trades, whatever else is on your mind. 64686. That is the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Lavelle is next.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barrera.
What do you got for Lavelle E. Neal III? That's the question on the table right now. 64686. That's the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. Gessling will join us from Vikings training camp in about a little less than 1 hour. Here's the key question, the toss-up question for Lavelle. I'm assuming that you will be at Target Center high noon on Sunday. Am I correct?
Yes, you are.
Good for you. Well done. Well played. And
I'll be at practice tomorrow, Mayo Square.
Nice. You're on top of it. Yeah, there's no question about it.
Well, I got to stop by there and make sure the name Sophie Cunningham isn't asked to Cheryl Reeve.
Are you going to ask it?
I may have to. We'll see.
Good luck on that. Here's what you do, Lavelle. Here's what you do. And I think it might be better to not make this the first question she gets. Maybe let some of the other jackals, because historically Johnny Athletic gets to ask every question at Target Center, regardless of the league, because he's the senior guy allegedly. But I think eventually your obligation is to ask back-to-back questions on what do you think is Sophie Cunningham's signs, or the fans supporting her via signs. And secondly, what do you still have against Caitlin Clark? How do you think that would go?
Yeah. that media session would probably end right then and there.
But you might get some remarkable responses because she can give a good answer.
Yeah, she can. She can. Yeah, it's like the Indiana Fever now. It's like you get the gin and the juice with that squad.
Well, that's very, very true, Davey. So are you writing, is there such a thing as writing, like if you write, so that's a noon game, can you make Star Tribune deadline on that game?
Oh yeah, that'll be easy to make. I'm going to do a post-game video recap, a quick 2-minute hit at the final buzzer, because we'll have our beat writer there trying to get something into the Monday paper. So that's plenty of time though. A noon game is a slam dunk. I mean, we usually get 1:15, 1:10 p.m. Twins games in, so that won't be an issue as long as we make sure someone's at the office to process everything.
Well, yeah, it's okay. Whatever works for you. I think
it should be a hell of an atmosphere.
Yes,
I was just looking it up. Kayla was injured last year with the groin thing. And they still drew 15,000 fans at Target.
That's right.
For the game. But in 2024, Caitlin's rookie year, the 2 times the Fever showed up, they drew over 18,000.
Yeah.
Open. So, and the second deck will be open for Sunday's game.
I would hope so.
So, Iowa fans travel well. They'll probably come in Saturday, spend Saturday night on the town, and then head over to the game.
A serious question, signage related. Because we were just before this segment talking about the Sophie Cunningham kerfuffle and the signage at the last game, the owner berating the kids who had the signs, etc. So do we know what Target? So if, let's just say similarly, some fans come in with signs either way, supporting Sophie Cunningham's position or ripping her. Do we know what the Target Center Lynx policy is on such shows of expression?
I'm pretty sure that's a Target Center decision and not a Lynx decision. So it's up to the people operating the stadium as to what they'll allow. If I'm not mistaken, I think they've confiscated signs in the past that have been controversial. And of course, we had the one Wolves game when the woman ran out on the floor and glued her hand to the floor.
Yeah, Gluegate, right?
I would have ran out with a chainsaw and started it just to see how fast she could figure out a way to get the hand off the floor. But that's another thing. But so I'm curious. I'm guessing we're going to probably find out on Sunday, since it's a hot button issue that, and now that the co-owner for the Seattle Storm has been suspended by the league for her verbal assault on the fans that brought the sign. It's an issue now. So, and like I said, it's made the Fever a road show now. When they pull into town, you're bringing in the fantastic Caitlin Clark, who has her own set of issues, dealing with physicality and getting choked by players during games. And now you got Sophie Cunningham, who's brash, who's out there, who likes to be opinionated, who likes to point at opponents, who likes being a ring girl at UFC events. And she brings her own, attention-grabbing actions as well. So it's a road show now with the Fever.
Now, if we try to actually get back to the basketball, which I think should be in of itself very enticing and attractive, correct? My assumption is...
man, it's going to be awesome.
My assumption is we're not necessarily going to see a direct start-to-finish matchup between Miles and Clark, even though obviously that's going to be a big part of the story, because often the so-called star players don't end up getting matched up against one another. Do we have any inside information on that?
No, I think the expectations are that the Lynx are going to try various people on Clark, though, to slow her down. They may try to double her or try to get the ball of her hand quick, or they may put someone bigger on her at times. I think that's what happened. That's happened in the past when the Lynx have played against Caitlin. So I don't think it's going to be tete-a-tete for the full 40 minutes on Sunday. So that's why I'm sure there'll be moments. But the thing is just watching the two styles. Clark's averaging 21.5 points a game. She's going to pull up from half court. Yeah. Olivia Miles is going to play like she has eyes on all four sides of her head. She's going to make fantastic passes and pass people open for baskets, which she does as well as anyone in the league. You're just going to see two elite players, work their craft and may the best team win. And also, I was just checking it out today. Miles is against Steve for MVP. It's not just like a rookie of the year thing.
No question. Yes.
There's some MVP odds, like on FanDuel, that
there should be.
They're starting to put Miles in like the top 3 or 4. And Caitlin Clark's right there too.
She's absolutely in the top.
This could be a separation game. I think. I don't know how the voters are not going to vote for Aja Wilson. She's awesome, but the fact that the Lynx carried the best record in the league without fee for so long, that's got to be huge in Olivia's case, I think. To get some recognition for that award.
If that doesn't define value, also we mentioned earlier, the fact is they've lost a bunch of players either via the expansion draft or trade or free agency. In addition to Collier not being available, that defines a value. So she's right in it for sure. I don't think there's any question about that. We mentioned, was it either yesterday or the day before, that it sounds outlandish to talk about the possibility of Napheesa Collier being traded before the deadline, but you kind of have to at least talk about it because of her weird contract situation. Now, my assumption is that she herself has seen enough of what Miles has added to the mix that she is going to want to come back here too. But and I know that contract itself, the fact that it's a 1-year deal and she's unrestricted at the end of the year, that's why her name is included in the trade speculation, not because the feeling is that the Lynx want to get rid of one of the best players in the league now just coming back, but it's such an unusual set of circumstances with the new CBA, with the contract she signed, and the fact that she's been out as long as she has, and the trade deadline coming up, it sounds crazy to even talk about it, but they kind of do have to protect themselves, don't we? Or do we have inside word that we now know there's a wink going on and that there's no question Collier's coming back?
I haven't heard about a wink going on. This is going on with Kelsey Plum, I believe, as well.
Yes.
I think actually that her team's actually going to move her before the deadline. So, that is the thing. It came up a couple of weeks ago about this possibility. It would just be remarkable. But here's the thing, why did Fee sign for a year? Once the CBA was ratified and we knew what rules every team was playing by. Why did she sign for a year? That was the big head scratcher. So I think a lot of people thought that, she just wants to play a year and then get out in the free agent market and pick where she wants to play. I can't see Cheryl, the coach, who is in win mode, agreeing to such a deal to move Collier, who's an MVP level player. Cheryl, the front office person, may feel a little differently about long-term viability, and if you can get the right assets in return for Fee, knowing that you have Olivia Miles to accentuate whatever assets you can get for Fee.
Exactly.
Maybe you think you can win with the altered roster, but
exactly,
man, there's risk in that. There's definitely risk in that. Short term, long term. I don't know. I think after we saw what has happened during the first half of the season, people are thinking the Lynx can win the title. With this roster.
No question. There's no question.
And why would you mess that up? It's quite a dilemma, and it's going to be fascinating to see how this is going to be approached.
It's almost unprecedented. I don't know another situation in any sport that I can compare this to exactly. Lavelle Neal III kind enough to join us a little earlier than usual. Ben Gessling will be with us at 5:30. I don't know that you and I have talked much on air, about the Vikings quarterback situation lately because, we're asking a lot from you. We're asking you to put down the Bears glasses, and put away the burnt orange PJs that you have, the Bears colors, etc., and offer an honest appraisal of the world of Kyler Murray, because I think it's fairly apparent that they brought him in to start. I don't think that's a big secret. I don't think that's a big surprise. But the question is, how does Lavelle Neal III feel like this is likely to go? If we assume he's going to be the starter, and let's assume that for the sake of this discussion today, how is this going to go? Is it going to be a wild success? Is it going to be a moderate success? Could it be a colossal failure in which they don't really give McCarthy a fair chance to prove that he's ready to improve? How do you think this is likely to go?
I think it can work. I don't know if it's going to be a wild success. I think it's going to be somewhere between moderate and wild, but I think this can work with Kyler. We have to remember that the guy, for all his warts, he can throw for 35, 36, 3,700 yards in a season. Now, the touchdown totals, the passing touchdown numbers aren't gaudy. I don't think he's thrown more than 25 or 26 in the season, right? But, in 2024, when he was healthy, I think he threw for nearly 3,900 yards or something like that. So he's got an arm. Now, I think with the results have been mixed so far in camp, right? He's made some nice throws. I was reading about a nice back shoulder throw he made yesterday, but the ball's been on the ground a couple times, right? I think. Mm-hmm. So, right. No growing pains here. I think Kyler's going to get all the opportunity in the world to be the starting quarterback for the Vikings. I think overall, I know he had a couple nice receivers in Arizona, but he didn't have Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison's a quality number 2. And actually, I think Juwan Jennings is a 2 masquerading as a 3, to be honest with you. I think that could really work out for the Vikings with those 3 receivers. And KOC allowing Kyler to learn his system and Kyler being able to move around a little bit, which he likes to do. I don't know if you could just keep him in the pocket all the time, although with bookend tackles, I guess it's possible. I just think the structure's in place in the freshness of being in a new environment. I can see it working out. I don't know if it's going to be Boffo like Sam Darnold a couple of years ago, but I think Kyler can be above average in the KOC offense with the skill positioning players he has around him.
I've got the numbers in front of me. His best yardage year, his second year, threw for 3,971 yards, 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. 2 years ago, 2024, when he last played a full season, 17 games, he threw for 3,851 yards, 21 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. For his career, he's 121 TDs, 60 picks, but it's also worth noting he has 37 fumbles in his career, which is a lot, I think, for the quarterback position. That includes his third year, 12. He's tended to have basically half dozen most of the other time. And, part of the debate, I think, is what's the sweet spot? What do the Vikings view as the sweet spot when it comes to his escapability? Because I really believe he obviously is very mobile. We know that, right? But I also sense that he is not the kind of guy you want running people over. He can be hurt. He is little. Some people think that it actually, when he gets hit, it affects other things that he does, that the physicality gets to him a little bit. So, to me, you got to be real careful getting too excited about him running all over the place, a la, let's say, Michael Vick or some of the great running quarterbacks, because I do think he's a guy where you absolutely have to he's got to exercise good judgment, and that most of his mobility should be about finding time, getting to a secondary play, and hitting a receiver as opposed to trying to rush for 35 yards.
Yeah, I'm looking here now. His third year, he fumbled like 13 times, and then the last full season he fumbled 8. So that's like one every other game. No, and you're right. Yeah, you want, like you said, you don't want him to be a running quarterback. You want him to be a quarterback who can run, and preferably if it's third down, if you need to go get that first down, go get it. But also use your legs wisely to give yourself time and space in operating. He is a little guy, so he probably needs to be a little bit more mobile to get the passing lanes going. So there are some things there that you have to watch out for. But once again, he's got bookend tackles and he's got Will Fries. Jackson was promising as a rookie, so he's got an offensive line in front of him that should be able to protect him. Granted, we need to have assurances that Darrisaw is ready to play a full season,
right,
and play a full season well. That's definitely a component we need to watch in camp this year. But that's another reason why I think he's in a good spot here where he can do those things because of the personnel that's around him.
I couldn't agree more. Lavelle joining us. We talked, I think, about the offensive line before. Gaardsy mentioned, we got into this on TV tonight, that it was certainly welcome news to hear the positivity coming from Christian Darrisaw about how he feels physically, because he hasn't talked like that in a long time. Now, again, season hasn't started, training camp has just begun, but it's pretty clear that for this thing to work, no matter who the quarterback's going to be, he has to regain his former status, right, as being a dominant left tackle. And a part of that battle is him getting to a better place where he's confident in what he can do physically. So the early comments from him might be the most positive thing to come out of camp thus far, having nothing really to do necessarily with how Kyler's looking and how JJ's looking as well.
Yeah, that's key here. And now he's had a full season removed from the injury. He's had 2 off seasons, and this past off season, I'm sure he had pretty much a normal off season workout plan as a base to get into this year. So the fact that he's ready to go at the beginning of the camp, because you look across the league, Dan, there's a lot of dudes that aren't ready to practice. The PUP list is filling up already.
Yeah.
The non-football related injury list is starting to get some additions. The Bears got some stuff going on right now. Kyler Gordon is on the PUP list already.
Again?
Yes. They're not happy. They're not happy about it. They thought he was ready to rock and roll. And somebody else is out too. Someone had a non-football injury related deal that landed them on the list as well. Someone's sick, but So the fact that Darrisaw is online for the opening of camp, that's a good sign, man. Get a full camp in, get his work in. get the muscle memory going from a couple of years ago when he was a stud, and then launch it to the regular season. So until, I'm sure that there'll be days where he's getting like a Veterans Day off or things like that. We'll all overreact to it. But, that's how camp kind of ebbs and flows. But so far so good because he's there with the guys and he's participating, and that's what you want to see.
A.J. Minter added probably to the top of our bullpen in terms of left-handed options. Can this be classified as a little bit more than just a journeyman relief pitcher, even compared to the last one we added? Or what do we make of the Minter move, and what are you hearing might be coming before the Monday deadline?
Well, A.J. Minter actually has a track record of being a proven reliever. I believe he won a World Series with the Braves. He's a left-hander who has thrown at 96 miles an hour in the past. He had a lap problem, I believe, last year. Now he's throwing about 93, maybe touching 94. But, one of the things that set the Twins back this year was that they traded for Anthony Banda to be like the lefty reliever coming out of the bullpen. He got off to a horrible start, but then he settled in and started getting into a groove, and he suffered a season-ending injury. So Minter actually becomes the guy that the Twins wanted Banda to become here. He's got 2.35 ERA with the Mets so far this year. He throws his fastball is about 93 miles an hour. I think he throws a cutter, and he has a changeup, so he can get you out three ways. His strikeout rate is down this year, as is the velocity in his fastball, but he still can pitch well. Given you look at the raw numbers, it shows that he can still get guys out. So this was a solid addition for two players who are on the outside of the Twins, top 25 prospect list, So that's just a start. I'm sure they're looking for more bullpen help. They definitely need He's a right-hand reliever. Here's the funny part, Dan. Since June 28th, the Twins relievers actually have an ERA under 3.8, I believe. They've actually been functional over the last month or so. So they've done their job. But I think if they could find another guy who's got a track record of getting people out, they'll pluck him in the back of that bullpen. Steven Adams has been pitched better. Andrew Morris has been huge for them. He's been hot and cold at times, but he's got talent. He should be a starter, but they had to throw him in the bullpen out of necessity. So I think the Twins are going to keep looking for relief help for sure, man, over these next 2 days. And give them credit, too, because there's a lot of teams looking for relief help, a lot. And there's probably more buyers than sellers. And the Twins are able to identify a trade partner and be proactive and make the move now. So they're probably have to do that to get out in front of some of these other teams once they start, looking for relief help over the next couple of days. It should be really interesting. I talked to Ryan Jeffers a little bit yesterday. I got the sense, he didn't say it, but I got the sense that he is comfortable with whatever outcome happens between now and Monday. If he stays, I think he's happy. I think if he ends up getting traded, he's a realist and knows it's time for him to move on, and that he was a free agent. They're trying to get what they can. But Jeremy Zolas made it clear Tuesday he wanted to keep Jeffers. Now, I don't think that's going to change. I think yesterday's win was huge because you lose that game. Now you're back under 500, and you're heading to Seattle, and they're probably their three best pitchers lined up to face you. And you're one bad weekend away from all of a sudden saying, well, maybe we should pivot and sell. So I think yesterday's victory was huge in that regard. And I do expect Jeffers to be here through the deadline, but you never know when a desperate team may call and overpay and make the Twins at least think about it. But I think Zoe's going to stick to his guns here, partially, too, because Buxton's on the injured list, and they need offense. The best thing about this team hangs its hat on its offense. They've scored the most runs in the American League. Why would you be moving a guy who's going to be front and center of that offensive effort? So I think Jeffers is prepared to pivot if he has to, but I don't think he's going to be dealt.
I'm looking at Cody Clemens' numbers. Last year, for the entire season, in it looks like 119 games, he had 19 home runs and 52 runs batted in. This year, in 95 games, He's already matched his home run total, and he's eclipsed that RBI total by 1 to 53. And I was encouraged to hear you. I think you were on the day Gaardsy and I were out on Tuesday. You were on with Sinekin to finally acknowledge that Cody Clemens deserves some love.
He does. He's earned it. Look, he's probably one of the team leaders in WAR. He's raised his batting average. He's batting in the 240, 250 range, I believe. I think his OPS is like near 800.
Yeah, that's correct. 793.
He's got nearly 20 homers in 4 months. That's a 10 home run a month pace. All right. He may end up with about 28 homers this year. And considering where he's come from, that's remarkable. He got an opportunity here. He's run with it. I thought he was going to get DFA'd. I thought he was going to DFA at one point last year. I thought he was going to be here temporarily. He's proved me wrong. He has carved out a spot on the team. He's probably become a core player, and he's got some years of experience on the younger guys. He's actually a kind of a role model or a good example for some of these other guys to follow as to how you can make a career for yourself if you're unheralded and if you've had a hard time trying to find an opportunity. He got opportunity here and he's run with it, man. I mean, a few weeks ago they pretty much made him the number 3 hitter in the lineup, which is crazy to think. But seriously, who else did they have for options, to be honest with you? But it's been cool to see.
Grand Slam, of course, wrapping things up last night as we got on the air. Gaardsy, I think we found somebody who's actually worse at math than we are, because Lavelle, you said he's on a 10 home run a month pace. The season's 4 months old, and he's got 19 home runs. So wouldn't that be 5?
I meant 10 home runs every 2 months.
Oh, okay. So I'd be sure, because our last thing we do is mock anybody else's math aptitude. But that sounded like that even caught my ear, and I go, wait a minute now. I don't think that's
no. Yeah. So that's about 5 home runs a month then, if it's 10 every 2 months?
Yeah, it is. But I had it broken up into thirds, because basically their terms of a 6-month season. All right. They're 2/3 of the way through. So
don't bring thirds into it. We're going to get lost.
I just misspoke. I meant 10 home runs every 2 months. So that's where he's basically done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's not bad. That that was probably as dramatic a finish as you're going to have, right? In a while, walk-off grand slam at home down to 1 strike.
I've been covering ball since 1993.
Yeah,
I have never heard the phrase "ultimate grand slam" before. And it's all over social media now, and people are quoting it to me.
It's annoying. Sorry to hear that.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I was going to say it's one of those. We always have to come up with a different new thing that sounds cooler than everything that's come before.
Yeah. So I'm like, what is this phrase you guys? What the hell's the ultimate? And the Twins put out on their postgame notes yesterday. I was like, what is this ultimate grand slam thing? Really? I mean, whatever. Yeah. I will say it's only happened 15 times, and as long as baseball's been played, and how many games have been played in the history of Major League Baseball, and for something to only happen like 15 times, that's rare.
That is rare. No question about that. Yep. Have fun on Sunday. Like you said, the atmosphere should be explosive, and I'm counting on you to get Cheryl Reeve going tomorrow after practice.
You know what? It doesn't take much to get her going. At the same time, it doesn't take much to get her to shut you down too. That's
also true. That's also true. You got to be prepared for both.
Either or. So I think this session could be rather entertaining tomorrow.
I think you're right about that. Have a great weekend. Thanks, man.
You too.
Lavelle Neal III joining us early. About a half hour from now, it'll be Ben Gessling time. He'll file a live report after the Vikings' most recent practice session. We've got Top 5 at 5 coming up. I'm assuming there'll be some baseball. I'm assuming there'll be some football, and who knows what else. Basically, Lavelle is holding up Gaardsy at the vestibule, so he's not going to be able to do his own tee. So that's the best I can come up with on short notice.
You're listening to Barrero on The Fan.
From the 1-800-ASK-GARY Traffic Center. This report is sponsored